All right, so here we are on day 15 of the Daily Dao, day 15 of 2023. And we're doing a little reflecting on verses 12 through 15 in particular of the Dao De Jing, the Stephen Mitchell translation, and really any other things that are coming up halfway through this first month of the year. So, as looks like we've got at least one person typing a comment, and I'll go ahead and start some of my commentary on these, just going one by one. Um, Verse 12 is one that when I first read this, it didn't appeal to me very much, actually. And then uh, as my practice has gotten deeper, it's become one that I understand more deeply or appreciate more deeply. Colors blind the eye, sounds deafen the ear, flavors numb the taste, thoughts weaken the mind, desires wither the heart. And this verse is, well, at least partly about what happens when we're overstimulated. And this is a meditation text in a lot of ways, or it's telling us the way to enlightenment involves stillness and quiet and subtleness. Um, and you know how it is. It's like if you've been eating a whole lot of really sugary things, you're not going to necessarily be able to taste something that's lightly flavored with honey. If you've been watching a bunch of TikTok videos, you might have a hard time getting through, like, I don't know, a longer old film. So these are just examples of what kind of happens when the way that we kind of can deaden our senses by overstimulation. Um, and this is a really helpful thing for us as meditators to remember, because often what draws us out of our meditation is this desire to stimulate, to do something else, right? We start to get quote unquote bored, or we start to feel like we need more stimulation. And um, in this verse, he says the master observes the world, but trusts his inner vision. And he allows things to come and go. His heart is open as the sky. So there's this theme of being available for whatever is, for whatever shows up in the world. But this overstimulation that we do tends to fixate us and keep us stuck and then tracking in desire, right? And that desiring heart can't be open because it's always disappointed by what it finds. Oh, I wanted something different, right? Okay. Um, I got a little comment from Bill. He says, continues to remind about getting out of the way and letting realizations happen naturally. I really liked the thought of letting the mud or mind noise settle in order to see clearly. Yes, you got it. You nailed it. Um, and that line that he's talking about is from today, and it's actually one that I remind myself of a lot. I'll just go ahead and go through 13, 14, and then 15, and I'll see if any more comments come in um, along the way. Okay. So 13 is another interesting one, um, which at first can sound almost sort of scolding, or, he says, success is as dangerous as failure. Hope is as hollow as fear. And then he explains it, right? What does it mean that success is as dangerous as failure? Well, whether you go up the ladder or down it, your position is shaky. Um, this is a great example of these sort of paradigms that he presents, and then shows that because of duality, um, it always brings its opposite. So, right. So if your whole world is, if success is climbing up the ladder, um, and failure is going down the ladder, right? Then you need to always be climbing up. And what he's saying is that the very paradigm means that of that kind of competitiveness, you know, it, can you be successful uh, without constantly having to move up, or always having to have someone below? That this paradigm of living on a ladder is in and of itself a dangerous paradigm, You can't win. Whereas when my 2 feet are on the ground, whoa, what a completely different orientation. Just get yourself out of the paradigm. But what we often want to do is we want to get ourselves away from failure by moving towards success. The irony is that failure and success go together because we've chosen that paradigm of the latter. Making sense? And then hope is as hollow as fear, because hope and fear are both phantoms that arise from thinking of the self. When we don't see the self as separate, essentially, what do we have to fear, right? So my hopes are wrapped up in this paradigm. I hope that I get up that ladder. I hope that I get to the very top. I'm not going to be satisfied until I do. My fear is that I'm going to fall down that ladder. But what he's saying is that means that if as long as you're working in that paradigm, you know that you are you are not seeing the world as it is, and you're seeing yourself as separate from the others, right? And then a success and hope start to actually shift into being identified with our whole world, right? We see the world as yourself, have faith in the way things are, love the world as yourself, then you can care for all things, right? I'll applaud the success of my friend. I'm going to lift my friend up when they fall down. And I'm going to keep moving. And Pamela has another comment here that I'm going to loop in a second. Verse 14, look and it can't be seen, listen and it can't be heard, reach and it can't be grasped. It goes on and basically says there's no top, bottom, end, beginning of the Tao. And he never names the Tao in this one. He just calls it, right? This is again reminding us of the power of the subtle. We started off with 12 today, one of the first one that I talked about of kind of being like, what happens when we're sort of overstimulated? And so again, this is an invitation to appreciate and respect what is subtle, seamless, unnameable. It returns to the realm of nothing. Form that includes all forms, image without an image, subtle beyond all conception. And this is another theme, is that conceiving of things only gets us so far. A little later, he says, you can't know it, but you can be it. So what we're looking for, right, which in 12, colors blind the eye, right? I'm looking around for the Tao. I'm looking around for the truth, the wisdom. I'm listening for it, but I can't exactly hear it, right? Because it's silence. It's the silence that's underneath everything and between every moment of sound. Reach and it can't be grasped. So this very act of looking, listening, reaching, when done in this seeking kind of way, actually keeps us from appreciating it. How do we be it, right? We can't understand it conceptually. We cannot grasp it materially. But we can know it. How? By being at ease in your own life, he says. Just realize where you come from. That is the essence of wisdom. And then that leads us to today, and this description at the top. He describes the ancient masters who were profound and subtle. Their wisdom was unfathomable, no way to describe it. But then he describes their appearance, what it might look like to see someone who is enlightened moving through the world. And then this line that both Bill and now Pamela has also brought up. I'll read Pamela's comment here in a second, but they're referring to this line. It's a couple lines. Do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? Pamela says, it's so easy to do something to please or to keep up. Waiting till peace is truly felt to proceed is truly a practice. Yeah, and Bill chimes in here, it's so easy to be attached to the outcome. Absolutely. And that's something that we talked about, I think, on Wednesday a lot, in our last reflection group. But this part I return to again and again and again. Do you have the patience to wait until the mud settles? And so you can imagine kind of going around the world. I do this all the time without clarity. What does that feel like? Right. And as Pamela says, it's so easy to do something to please others or to keep up, or honestly, in my case, just to keep myself kind of stimulated, to keep myself from being bored, to be honest. To keep myself from letting those thoughts creep in that maybe I'm not productive enough or whatever it is. But that is what meditation is. And when we're doing it all day long, checking in with the self, we have to do this all the time. I've developed like a little mini moment that I take for myself before I speak in staff meetings at the theater now, because I would notice that the energy of everyone in the room, sometimes I would just find myself talking and then I'd stop talking and I'd go, I was so unclear before I even began talking. No wonder the effect of that didn't feel very aligned, right? So doing this throughout our day, is it possible to just wait? And then, oh man, can you remain unmoving until the right action arises by itself? And this last sort of theme I'll drop in here, and then we'll wrap this reflection up. But is this idea that, just remember where you come from. You come from the Tao. Just remember what is always functioning, even though the forms and shapes and sounds are always changing. What doesn't change? The silence underneath. Even though there's so many different things passing through, what doesn't change? Awareness, the nothingness. The Tao will act through you if you have the patience to wait and let it do so. Trusting what we actually are, where we actually come from, what we're really made of. Trusting that, have faith in the way things are. Trusting that we don't have to change everything, that we don't have to recreate reality, that it is already so divinely made. And when we meditate and when we gather like this and when we reflect on this wisdom and we contemplate it, it's all just ways of getting out of our own way, of that small self, right, that we get so obsessed with, always sending it up the ladder, right? Of becoming detached to that so that we can just fall into alignment and be this unique expression of the Tao. You are a one of a kind expression of the Tao. Trust where you come from, trust where what you're made of, and all of these practices suddenly begin to feel a little more simple and a little more freeing. And nonetheless, we got to keep them up all the time, right? Every single day. And that's what we're doing. I don't see any more comments. So thanks everybody for being here and for participating. If you're watching the video or listening to the audio recording, please, please, please leave your comments down below the recording so that we can participate with you asynchronously. And I do respond to all the comments that you guys post. So have a wonderful Sunday, everybody who's here with me. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you tomorrow.